Hello and welcome to our presentation today, which is Educational Resources on Financial Literacy from the Federal Reserve System. So today I'm joined by my colleague Robin and myself, and we're here to tell you a bit about our educational resources on financial literacy. Before we really get into today's presentation, we do have to say that the opinions presented here are our own and do not necessarily reflect the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland or the Federal Reserve System. So just a quick little overview, meet the team. Rob and I are both here to talk with you today, but we are, two cogs in a very small but mighty team. So myself, my name is Elle Benak. I do a lot of focus on educational outreach in Northeastern Ohio. I do a lot of K through 12 programming, curriculum writing, field trips, which we'll talk a bit about later. I wear many hats on this team, but I really enjoy it. And I'm going to turn it over to Robin to introduce herself real quick before we get into some of the other team members.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to meet with us today. We're excited to share what we do. My name's Robin Gavan, and I work with Elle at the bank. We do a lot of outreach and presentations for schools, K through college even. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully we can answer any questions that you might have.
Alexandria or Zan. Her focus is on Central Ohio and Western PA, and Lakeisha is actually located in our Cincinnati office, so works with some of our Southern Ohio and actually Eastern Kentucky schools. We also have Kaz and Devante, who work on educational outreach and some student programs for K through 12 as well. So that's a bit more about our team and some faces you might see, if you choose to take part in some of these resources that we're going to be chatting about today. So just a quick little introduction. We're going to keep moving forward here. And before we really get into talking about a bit about some of the resources that we have to offer today, we did just want to do a little overview of, who is the Federal Reserve? What does the Federal Reserve do? So we just did want to start off with, sharing some knowledge and information about the Federal Reserve in general, so that you can learn a little bit more and make some more connections on some of the resources that we have to share.
Welcome to the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland. This beautiful building has been a fixture in Cleveland since 1923. This is the bank's main lobby. At one time, bankers and the public used to come here to buy savings bonds and conduct transactions. Now, it's a place for students and adults to have fun learning about saving and spending money, basic economics, and the history of the Federal Reserve. Before we dive into exhibits, here's a brief overview of this bank and our role in the Federal Reserve System.
The Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland was first established in the old Williamson building back in 1914. At the time, we only had 23 employees. But as the operation grew larger, so did our need for space. So in 1923, we moved into a current home here in the corner of Superior Avenue and East 6th Street. Upon moving in, a 106-ton, 5-foot thick vault door, a 19-foot tall hinge was installed. Although it is no longer used to house our inventory of cash notes, it is still one of the largest of its kind ever constructed.
Along with our branch offices in Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, the Cleveland Fed also serves all of Ohio and parts of Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and West Virginia. This region is known as the Federal Reserve's 4th District and is one of 12 regions that make up the Federal Reserve System. Together, we're responsible for promoting a healthy U.S. economy and a stable financial system on behalf of the public.
A Federal Reserve Bank like this one is unique because it's a bank for other banks, not individual people. We offer financial services and banking oversight to make sure that other banks continue to function smoothly and safely. We also play a crucial role in community and economic development, economic research, and financial education, which is what makes the Money Museum such a fun place to visit and learn.
We hope that you can take some time to enjoy our innovative programs and interactive exhibits. Try your hand at trading your way through the barter islands. See if you can detect counterfeit notes, and even design your own money.
Check in with us regularly through our social channels and our website, clevelandfed.org, to learn more about the economy and our bank.
We're incredibly proud of the fun and educational place that the Cleveland Fed is today. On behalf of my colleagues, it's an honor to serve you as your local Federal Reserve Bank.
So as I said, that's just some information on the Federal Reserve Bank and the Federal Reserve System. So here at the Cleveland Fed, we are one of 12 districts that make up the Federal Reserve System, along with the Board of Governors. And as the video said, here in Cleveland, we're kind of the headquarters location, and the areas that we're focused on is all of Ohio, Western PA, Eastern Kentucky, and the Panhandle of West Virginia. So, I always tell guests that the easiest way to think about what the Federal Reserve does is we are the bank for banks. So I always talk to students about, what is it that you might know a bank to do? And we'll talk about the different services that a bank offers. And I'll say, those are services that the Federal Reserve offers to other banks who choose to be members of them. But the Fed's overall mission is to support a stable banking and financial system and a healthy, growing economy. So that's what we're always striving towards. The Fed's three main functions are monetary policy, supervision and regulation, and payment services. So monetary policy is the Fed influences the interest rates to keep inflation low and the economy growing. Supervision and regulation, I learned this actually from some people who work in our supervision and regulation department. They like to compare themselves to a health inspector. So just like a health inspector goes out to restaurants and, runs examinations on those restaurants and sees how they're doing, the bank examiners will go out to banks and make sure that, they're acting in healthy manners for us to bank at. And so that's a little bit of an insight into supervision and regulation. To learn a little bit more about payment services and what that looks like, we actually have one more video to share.
Every day, you buy products and services. When it's time to pay for those purchases, the most common way to transfer funds has always been our old friend, cash. You may touch and interact with paper money daily without really thinking about how it's maintained. And that's okay, because at the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland, we work every day, along with other reserve banks, to keep cash moving smoothly from coast to coast. Let's take a look at how our modern cash operations department works. It all starts when your local bank has either too much or too little currency on hand. When this happens, they schedule a deposit or request for cash with their assigned Federal Reserve Bank, just like the one here in Cleveland.
The notes that we receive most in receiving our 1s and 20s, we have to inspect the bags, make sure there's no holes, that nothing's been tampered with. We match the deposit ticket to the manifest, and then we process it.
Once they're unloaded, the notes are sent to high-speed sorting, where they're inspected to see if they're fit for recirculation.
Our operators will order currency. Once they get the currency in, they will count the currency. Then they will run it through our currency processor. If it's unfit, it will either shred at the currency processor or reject, and our operators will shred it by hand.
The fit notes are joined with fresh new notes, which are printed by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. New notes are ordered by the Fed to fulfill cash requests placed by financial institutions within our district.
Our average, I would say, high-speed sorter area, we would go through about 780,000 notes per day.
The next step on our journey is the paying department. Here, we use automated guided vehicles, or AGVs for short, to transport money to and from the vault, getting the notes exactly where they need to go.
We will send a command out. They will go to the vault, retrieve the container that we're asking for, bring it to the room, drop it off. Then we're able to use it to process our orders for the day. Once the notes are loaded into the armor truck, we ship it out and it goes to the local banks.
Before you know it, we've come full circle. Cash comes back to your bank and is ready for its next destination, your wallet. So the next time you get some spending money from an ATM or get a couple dollars back in change, you'll know a little more about what happens behind the scenes and how the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland keeps our economy moving.
So real quickly before we move forward here and get into some resources, I think a really interesting part that this video shows, and I always tell guests, is that the BEP, the Bureau of Printing and Engraving, is the one who prints our currency, not the Federal Reserve. It is the Federal Reserve who makes orders for that currency from the BEP, but it's only the Federal Reserve that has that privilege. So I tell people the cash that you have or the cash that you have touched in your life it is always going to be at a Federal Reserve twice in its life cycle. Once when it is, issued out into the money supply, and once when it is pulled from the money supply because it's an unfit bill and needs to be shredded, like they talked about in the video. So I do think this is really interesting because this is something that I don't think is people always realize, how is that money moving throughout the system, and it's a really important role that the Federal Reserve plays. We have many more resources for your students to learn about personal finance, the role of the Federal Reserve System, and more. And we are going to get started with that here now. And I'm going to actually turn it over to my colleague Robin to talk about some resources that come specifically from the Cleveland Fed. We are going to both turn off our videos for the rest of this recording, just to make sure that we are supporting our audio quality the best possible, but we will pop on back at the end for our wrap up, but I just want to give you guys a heads up now.
Thank you so much, Elle. I'm excited to tell you a little bit about some of our resources. We have publications like Great Minds Think, which is a work booklet. You can order online, but it's also available online in a digital format for elementary and middle school students. I'll tell you more about that in just a moment too. Why Cleveland is a fascinating look at how Cleveland was chosen to be the headquarters for our entire district, and we were in competition with Pittsburgh, which is really kind of interesting. It's full of interesting historical photographs of the era, and it's available only in booklet form. And our Follow the Yellow Brick Road is all about the 1896 election, the presidential election, and what gave currency its value. And gold is definitely a part of the story, as you know, and it connects directly to that famous book and play. Great Minds Think, to further go into detail, is really a personal finance workbook, and it helps your students to think critically, not just about budgeting and saving, ways to pay, but how they're going to earn their money and how to really look at it in lots of different ways. It's in English and Spanish. You can order free copies or download the PDF form, but it's also available online, and it includes a teacher guide. It's a really valuable resource. We've had students from elementary, middle, and even some high school students that have learned a great deal, and it's helpful to work through as a work group, as an entire class, or as an individual, and then come back and share their findings.
I will also say, I just want to jump in here, Robin. Like Robin said, we've seen so many grades access this workbook. It's definitely popular with our elementary grades and our middle school grades, but like Robin said, high school has used it as well. We've also been seeing recently a lot of elementary and middle school grades take this workbook and use it as the basis for their financial literacy curriculum in their school. Schools have done it a couple different ways. They might do it in a week. We have one school that I know has reached out and asked about it, but it's actually going to take each of the 4 sections and spread it out over 4 weeks. But they use this as the basis and then add in supplemental resources as they need. But a lot of schools have found this resource useful to kind of build that experience for their students in the classroom.
So there's lots to the booklet, and making your own budget is very important, and you can follow along with the characters in the booklet. But it really becomes about personal choices, and the students learn so much about how to handle their finances and how to make good money choices. So it's online as well. It's a wonderful resource and fun and engaging, actually. You can do it on a smartphone, a tablet, computer. You could share it with the whole classroom and work through it together, or have the students work on it individually, like I mentioned. Barter Island is a really fun game where you're going to follow through learning how to barter. So you can access that directly online, and the students would take part in choosing how to trade one thing from another, going from on a little sailboat from one island to another. And they may need, to trade coconuts to get oranges, to get a sail for their ship to get back home. So it's really fun learning experience. And then our Save and Spend Challenge is also an online game used in classrooms to teach financial literacy topics. So these really are fun, engaging ways to include your students in making their own money decisions, but learning along the way. So it's available again in English and Spanish as a web app, and it does include a teacher guide. So there's a lot to it. You can stretch this out over the course of even more than 4 weeks, or you could try to put it all together in a intense unit, maybe over a week's time. And it's just, I think, really one of our most popular resources. Do you have anything to include, Elle?
No, I would just say, I know we've moved on to our online games, but all of the resources that we're talking throughout today's presentation are free. We probably should have started off with that. So everything that we're talking about today is free and accessible for your classroom. So for example, yes, we offer the online version of Great Minds Think. It's all set out. You can go in and do each section. The students can actually even receive a certificate of completion at the very end of Great Minds Think. But also the workbook, we have a lot of teachers who prefer to have the physical workbook in hand, and we do have online order forms where you can order those workbooks for your classroom for free. And there's other physical resources that we'll be talking about today throughout the presentation that you can do that with as well. But here's a little inside look inside what Great Minds Think looks like on the web app version.
It really is an engaging resource that I think your students will really enjoy. So Barter Island is the game I tried to explain about how they learn that bartering is really just about unacceptable use of currency. And you need to find a sale for your boat to return home, and the students trade coconuts and apples, all kinds of things, and it's really kind of fun and enjoyable. It can be something that the kids compete against each other with, or work individually, or even as a group.
And we've seen a lot of teachers really like this resource to kind of build upon introducing what makes money money, and why we have one uniform form of money, and why we still don't barter coconuts to get our sales that we need for our ships, and so on. So it is a really great piece to kind of launch that conversation with as well.
So the Save and Spend Challenge is a really enjoyable online resource that is all about financial literacy and teaching all these different topics. And it has a great budgeting section, so the students learn all about how to spend and save based on a budget.
Yeah, and I would really say that the basis of this, as Robin said, they're going to learn about spending, savings, budgeting, savings goals. And I would really say one of the skills that this drives home for students is financial decision making. They can go in here and test decisions with this mock budget and kind of see it happen, play out for them over 3 years right in front of their eyes, and go in and adjust that decision and see how that makes changes. Students are also going to be introduced to very lightly some career paths and some career information. So all of these characters, once you pick a character and pick a savings goal, you also have to pick a career, and that lays out the salary for that career. So students, like I said, very likely are going to be introduced to some of that as well.
And it's immediate results they'll see from their choices that they make. So that's kind of an amusing, fun thing to learn as the students maybe go back and adapt their choices. I think it's just really a wonderful resource.
This is also in our museum, and students get very excited while playing this game for that exact reason that Robin said. It's immediate. They can see it play out, and they're like, oh, I'm going to change this. So it is a really fun way to introduce some of those concepts to the students.
We have so many resources we're thrilled to share with you with lesson plans. The central banking game is coming soon, and we'll talk about that in a second. We have career clusters, jobs in my town, of course, Great Minds Think that we just mentioned, with posters, puzzles, and even bingo. So they're all based on the standards for Ohio for social studies and financial literacy. And they're very educational and in-depth resources that you can use.
And a lot of these activities are going to come with, completely laid out lesson plans with differentiations, some ideas for that, worksheets, the Invest in You poster. There you could definitely, access that poster to put it out in your classroom and so on.
And again, these resources are used for definitely a variety of levels. It could be elementary, but also high schools are using some of these as well.
Yes, these resources are very adaptable. And again, just as a reminder, they are free.
Central Banking Game is coming out soon. We're happy to share. It is aligned with the FinLit and Social Studies standards for Ohio, like we mentioned, all of our resources are. And it has everything to do with the world economy. We have infographics as well that are great for your classroom on career clusters. And they're very important because they really help share with students an idea of opportunities that they may not have been aware of in different categories.
And to help your students discover some of those different opportunities that they may not have been aware of, this infographic itself comes along with a lesson plan where students are kind of guided through exploring the infographic and actually complete a Venn diagram comparing their skills to a couple of the career skills that they find on this infographic interesting.
Yeah, they really learn all about different occupations, but also it lets them find out how their interests and skills might align with different careers that they may not have been aware of. Jobs in My Town is another wonderful resource that incorporates, the thinking through and making decisions, and it includes a bingo game where the students can interact as a whole team and or classroom together, and it's fun about just sharing, bringing all those ideas to life.
Yes, so actually Jobs in My Town and the career clusters are a part of a career, curriculum that we're building to support career exploration in the classroom. So Jobs in My Town has the bingo, like Robin mentioned. It has a worksheet that goes along with a lesson plan where students are going to be matching careers to the corresponding boxes, kind of being made aware of different careers, but also thinking about what careers might be in their community. So we did try to keep it to careers that, are kind of found in every community. And then we have the career clusters. So we would say Jobs in My Town is probably for an elementary level, and then career clusters goes up to middle school. Again, as Robin said, when we were introducing our activities, these lesson plans are very adaptable though, so you can use them for where your classroom is. And then we made the middle school level one. And then we have a lot of our opportunities in high school include connecting students with professionals working at the Federal Reserve to do further career exploration and some job shadow. So, we've kind of created all of the touch points on careers at all of these levels to support schools in the career exploration. It's already being included so much in schools.
So we want to support all of our educators, and we provide teacher guides and lesson plans for all of these resources that we mentioned. So this is just a quick overview, a little piece of one of those lesson plans. It describes, of course, the time we feel it would take, the grade level, which it can be adjusted, of course, and the brief description, but all of those, things that support the resource itself, like there may be a vocabulary worksheet that's included, and we'll have, of course, the answer keys.
Yes, so like Robin was saying earlier, this is an example to kind of see how our lesson plans are structured and what you're receiving in those. But I do want to go back. Great Minds Think, as Robin mentioned, has a teacher guide that comes along with it, but we've also written lesson plans that have gone along with it. If you would like to access that and to see a little bit more closely about how immediately you can click into the classroom.
Personal finance posters are available for your classroom. They include health and wellness, education, and it's all about investing. So it helps the students recognize how it's a broader conversation about being healthy. It's part of your education with financial literacy and your wellness as well.
Yes, and this is all tied in under the investing in your future, bringing in that topics, how health and wellness and education and a few other topics that are on this infographic, are investing in yourself and your future and your, how financial literacy plays a part in that as well.
So all of our resources are 100% free. We're here for you. We want to be supportive to all of our fellow educators. We have a lot of videos that are available. The Panic of 1907 is really it could be middle school, high school. We have Alexander Hamilton in the United States as a video. Welcome to the Cleveland Fed, which we shared, and the Inside Cash at the Cleveland Fed videos we shared in the beginning.
How you can visit our museum from wherever you are. So at the beginning of this year, we launched our virtual exhibit experience, which is through a platform called Culture Connect. And on this, we have several exhibits from inside the museum, such as the history of the Federal Reserve System, cash, inside cash, diving even deeper than that video went. We have exhibits on topics such as LEU, our law enforcement officers that work here, cybersecurity and how that plays a role in banking and what it looks like to be a cybersecurity analyst, and various other topics. So you're able to visit the museum from wherever you are using your phone, tablet, or computer, and this is compatible with the classroom. We are going to talk about, towards the end of today's presentation, we will talk about field trips, but this is a really great way to bring in the museum inside your classroom. And there's really fun, engaging questions throughout the exhibits, videos, artifacts to look at. So, it really is bringing what it can from that in-person museum visit onto a virtual platform. We are not the only Federal Reserve that has resources. As we learned at the very beginning, we are one of 12 Federal Reserve banks along with the Board of Governors, and all of us offer free educational resources, which can be found through federalreserveeducation.org. You can order these classroom sets of these resources for your students. You can also go in there and search by subject, resource type. So they have things like infographics, workbooks, videos, articles, podcasts, pretty much anything you can think of. And then you can also search by grade level. You can even go so far as searching by national standards as well. So, this is just a huge plethora of resources out there. But if you're ever looking for something in a personal finance, financial literacy, economic education topic, I would really encourage you to go take a look there. You can also find some of our resources that we talked about today on Federal Reserve education as well, but we'll also give you our website at the end of the presentation. So just to give you an inside look at some of the resources that are offered on Federal Reserve education, we'll walk through some hitting every grade K through 12. So first I'm going to start off with financial fables. So these financial fables are entertaining stories that combine reading with economics and personal finance into life lessons that you can be accessed as books, videos. They recorded little videos that are the stories. And then there are activities and resources that can be used to go along with these stories as well. Currency education, which is really learning the ins and outs of banknotes. So this is everything about that cash that we use every day. There's videos, lesson plans, Currency Academy, which is like a set unit that students can walk through and complete to learn all these aspects. I personally will say, I really love the videos on here. I've utilized them a lot when engaging with students, but I know there are so many resources that I have even gone to access and utilize and incorporate from currency education on all things money. So the Federal Reserve Everyday Economics Series, which comes from the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. One resource we really like to highlight is their book called The Federal Reserve. I think this is a great layout for students on what the Federal Reserve System is. It has really great graphics in there that are informational. They're almost like infographics that are in there. So I really like the way they use the pictures and the text to, communicate to the reader what the Federal Reserve is. So I would definitely, encourage you to check that out if you're interested. I would also say, they have other topics such as entrepreneurs, globalization, international trade, money, where they utilize those aspects as well with the images and information. But, if you're looking to teach your students about the ins and outs of the Federal Reserve and introduce them to the Federal Reserve System, I would definitely point you towards that red book there. And these resources that we are talking about today are all free, so you can access them online for free. These are some infographics from the Atlanta Fed that cover an array of topics such as why budget, why prepare for the unexpected, why should you save and invest, good credit, the whole gambit of personal finance and financial literacy topics are covered in these infographics. I've seen teachers use them as classroom decorations. I've seen teachers use them as teaching tools, and there are lesson plans that go along with these infographics. If you're looking to bring them into your classroom for students to utilize for a classroom activity, make sure you check that out, because there are already lesson plans written with worksheets and stuff for you to access. Not only do they have infographics on financial literacy topics, they also have infographics on economic topics such as fiscal and monetary policy, maximum employment. So this is going to go through, some of the economic topics and explain them to students. Again, you can use them as just informational pieces for your students or possibly teaching tools in your classroom. Dollars and Cents is a budgeting game for middle and high school students. And in this game, students are going to select their lifestyle, and then they kind of select their lifestyle and build their budget around choosing their home, choosing how they'll get around. How are they going to keep in touch? What communication level are they looking for? So they go through and they choose their lifestyle through these choices that they have to make, and then they're able to build their budget. Getting back to some of those financial decision-making topics and budgeting topics, and this is a really fun piece that I've seen a lot of teachers enjoy utilizing in their classroom. Kind of coming full circle here, another resource we have to talk about is Navigate. So many students may not be familiar with pathways to education or jobs after high school, and Navigate is a book on exploring college and careers. So a lot of teachers like to use this, definitely, I would say you could definitely use this at a middle school level, but I do think it is set and was written with high school in mind. But like I said, a lot of these resources that not only come from the Cleveland Fed, but also the Federal Reserve System are extremely adaptable. So, you can take a look at this and take different pieces from it that you might think work for your classroom. But what this is going to walk students through is exploring those different options for after high school, whether it be college or a career. It's not prescribing them to a specific path, but helping them to explore both and what some of those steps might look like. Invest in what's next. Students are going to go through 3 different lesson plans where they'll explore options for after high school, they'll budget for their future, and then they get to evaluate if that plan's right for them. So this is another resource that really does not prescribe to a specific pathway, but is helping to guide students through life after high school, and that's going to go through college, careers. It's really going to bring in that personal finance aspect as well for thinking about finances for after high school, introducing students to some of that, and it's really easy to kind of adapt into your classroom. Finally, but certainly not least, we're going to discuss Building Wealth, which is a personal finance tool. So this is an educational resources that really presents an overview of wealth and goes into what it means to build wealth, those personal finance aspects, and it's going to go through a lot of that. So this, I would say, is also a resource that has been set and is going to talk about building strategies, whether you're a consumer, a community leader, teachers, students. It's really adaptable for several audiences. You know, it's not just a tool that teachers can use in the classroom or teachers and the students can use in the classroom. This is definitely a tool that can be used in several different settings. So if you're with a community organization and you're thinking of using it, you know, this is going to be something that's going to be something that's going to fit the needs that you're looking for. Building Wealth is available as a workbook, but it is also has an online aspect to it if you would like to access that as well. So we're going to wrap up today's presentation, and we're going to wrap up today's presentation by talking about field trips that the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland has to offer. So prior to 2020, our field trips were all in person. At this time, when we're recording this video in May, we have not moved to in-person field trips yet. If you're interested in that, I would suggest that you continue to check back on our website throughout the summer and fall of 2022. I'm not really able to speak right now on what in-person field trips look like, but I know that's been a really popular question. So I do want to let you know at this time, as we're recording this, I don't really have any information to share, but you can always check on our website, which we will share at the very end here, to receive more information. But what I am going to talk about is virtual field trips, which we are currently offering and will continue to offer even when we go back to in-person field trips, is virtual field trips. So our virtual field trips, while being virtual, are set to be very hands-on. They're very activity-based. We have some concepts we go over, but students are always actively doing something. There's a lot of conversation that's happening. So we've made them very engaging in a distance learning environment. And as you can see actually on this slide are some feedback that we've gotten from different teachers that have partaken in our virtual field trips. So you can hear a bit more from them. And I will say all of our virtual field trips are aligned, the activities that we're doing are aligned to Ohio standards for financial literacy and social studies. We actually align most of the things, if not all of the things we do to both Ohio and Kentucky state standards. Here are a few of the virtual field trip topics that we offer. So we offer virtual field trips for K through 12 and even college. So we offer activities on currency recognition, earning, budgeting, financial decision making, investing, inflation, credit score. We have a 4-part series on the history of central banking in the United States, where we'll go into the first and second central bank here in the United States and talk about the Federal Reserve System we have now. We have one that talks about the Federal Reserve System throughout history, such as the Great Depression, Great Inflation, Great Moderation, to today. We have another one that focuses on specific monetary policy, so it's just specifically covering that. And then we have our final one in that series is the Fed and You, where it's going to talk about the structure of the Federal Reserve and how that engages with everyday people. So, you know, we have, and I would really say that this is just a little brief overview of the topics that we offer. Unfortunately, we weren't able to fit every on this slide, but there are several topics that we offer for field trip activities. So, you know, there's definitely going to be something that you're looking for on there. So I'd encourage that you check that out. And what's really great about our field trips is that we're very adaptable. So we do have an online reservation tool where you can go in and you can select the date, the time, your activity. Our online reservation tool schedules specifically for Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Now, if those times don't work for you, you can always reach out to us and ask about a Monday or a Wednesday, or ask about a different time. We're adaptable. We're going to meet you for your class bell schedule. We know not every class has a full hour, so we're definitely able to adjust for your classroom. So that being said, we can do sessions for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 60 minutes, but that's definitely still adjustable. And we can also we can remote into your classroom. So that's what we've been doing a lot lately. We are set up to do hybrid classrooms. If some students are virtual and some are in person, we're set up to do completely virtual students and engage with them, or a completely in-person classroom. What we've been seeing this past school year is we're remoting into an in-person classroom, and to do that we can use Zoom, Teams, WebEx, Google Meets. So we're definitely able to adapt with what technology you have in your classroom. We have resources we can share. Our activities are adaptable to based off what might work best for your class. You know, we're really looking to give your students the best experience possible and come in and talk about some financial literacy topics, some economic education topics, and so on. We do set a minimum of 10 students for an experience. So I would say, 35 is definitely our sweet spot for numbers. We have done classes that are larger. So, if you have a couple other students, we understand that not every class is perfectly at 35. You might have 37 students, 42 students. You might want it to do for like an after school program or something. So we're definitely able to adjust there as well. I would say, our maximum number that we don't necessarily go over for is 45. And that is for virtual experiences. So that is the last of our resources we want to talk about. I do want to let you know that you can always contact us at learningcenter@cleve.frb.org. So if you have any questions, please reach out via that email. And there is our website as well. So you could go to that website and find education and find some of the resources that we talked about today. You can also search Learning Center and Money Museum and will pop up if you want to search that as well. But this is some ways to find us. I'm going to pass it over to Robin now to talk about a few other ways to connect with us.
We're thrilled to connect with you. You can find us on the Muse. We have all kinds of profiles on interesting topics, jobs that are available, our employees, our offices. It's a professional format. If you want to find us on there, also LinkedIn, and we're happy to interact with you. You can find us on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen about some of our educational resources. We're so happy to share them with you and be a support.
Yes, so as Robin said, thank you so much for joining us today and watching this recording. We hope you learned a bit more about some resources that are available from the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland and the Federal Reserve System to support financial literacy education in the classroom and career exploration in the classroom. And we're definitely growing on a lot of topics in career exploration. Like I said, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. And just a final plug, remember that all of these resources are here and available to you for free. So that's classroom material, that's lesson plans, all of this can be accessed for free. So thank you and have a great day.